So I was gonna lead off with Tyjae Spears.
Let's go.
Since it was like the number 22 episode.
Let's go.
I was like, oh, the Tyjae. That just naturally came. I was like Tyjae Spears edition. Tulane won the Cotton Bowl. Congratulations, fucking phenomenal. I was riding a wave, literally and figuratively. I can't talk today. I've had too much coffee, but you know what I mean. It was phenomenal. It was crazy. We're watching it at home. We had it on at my house, and shit, it was the fourth quarter, and I think we kicked an onside kick. Yeah, I think we kicked the onside kick, and I'm like, well, it's fun while it lasted.
There was like 8 minutes left in the game, and he sat back on his counter and was like, well, Tulane lost, and we started planning out. It might not have been 8 minutes. I think it was like 5 or 6. And he was like, we should start planning our next move because we were going to go watch the Pels game.
Yeah.
And and I'm not even going to say it was just you because I was like, yeah, you know, it is what it is.
At the time, well, Marcelo had left.
Right.
You just kind of, it felt like the energy was like, we're never going to, it just doesn't matter because we can't stop them. Like, we're never going to catch up. Like, we could keep scoring, but it's not going to matter.
And we had accepted it because we both said coming into the game, like, just make it, our hope was that you could just look like you belong. And they had done that.
Which they did, yeah. So I was fine with it.
Right. I had mentally reached the point where I was like, you know what? Not going to ruin my day.
Yeah.
At all.
It was when I think they dropped the ball and it goes out of bounds at like the 1. I was like, I kind of looked at the TV sideways like, so you're saying there's a chance.
Yeah. On that note, we got to do something about these streaming services being so like not on the same page here. Yeah. We sit there and my watch just keeps going off, and I know when a big play is coming because we sit there and we're about to kick off, and I'm getting text messages saying, "Oh my God, what a turn of events!" And I'm like, they didn't even kick the ball off yet. Like, what did I miss?
So it's funny because like all the group chats I'm in, everybody knows that I have Hulu Live and it's a little behind. So instead of them telling me anything, they just send eyeballs. So it's like you don't know exactly what's gonna happen, but you know something's about to happen.
Right. Well, not even. And then we got to the point where I just turned my phone upside down because I didn't want to see it when we were getting to like the game winning or the last 2 drives. And still, like I can hear it buzzing, I can feel it going off on my wrist. Whenever I feel myself get 5 text messages at one time,
it's like something's happening.
I was telling you and Ethan that I had to do the same thing for when they were doing the draft for, the lottery for when we got Zion, and I knew the ESPN app was going to be ahead of time, so I put my thumb over the top of my phone to not be able to see the results.
That was a wild ride too. But no, it was awesome, man. It was crazy. It was cool to celebrate. It was weird that later that night the situation with Hamlin happened, but it was still a wild ride and fun. What I wanted to talk about though is, I mean, Tyjae Spears had 4 touchdowns in the game. He goes for 200 plus, I think. Do you think he has done enough? Which it's a dumb question if you look at his stats, but do you think he's done enough to warrant a second day pick?
I think I read he's actually tied for first.
He is.
Is it rushing touchdowns?
He's
or
tied for first in touchdowns in general.
Nice. I think it was 21.
I think it's touchdowns in general. Maybe I'm wrong. It could be rushing.
Whatever it was,
but either
21.
way, it's fucking impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's insane. Well, if you want to throw more stats out there, so I was going to say, do you think he's done enough? 8 games this year, he had 100 plus yards. His last 4 alone, he had over 180. Where do you think he gets drafted? Like, what day do you think he's done enough to warrant actually being looked at as like a top back in the draft?
I'd say day 2. Was it second and third round?
Consensus online right now is day 3, which I disagree with. I think talent-wise, now he's undersized.
Yeah.
He's going to be looked at.
But doesn't he feel, he feels like somebody, is he, I'm assuming he's in a Senior Bowl.
He is in the Senior Bowl. He got invited to the Senior Bowl.
So he could be somebody that stands out there.
Yeah.
Like everything he feels like, all right, so realistically, he's absolutely getting drafted. Or he should.
Yeah.
Should get drafted. You would think between that and then just the combine, he does enough. Like I would imagine he could have a 40 that kind of blows people away or shocks some people.
I don't know if he's fast. He's not super fast.
Yeah,
he's fast enough. He's not slow.
Yeah, maybe he's one of those people. I don't actually know what his 40 time is. He could just be one of those people that game speed is just faster. Like Alvin has a slow 40 time, but in game speed, he's like, all right.
I forget what website I was looking at earlier, but somebody had him clocked at a 4.4.
Which
is fast. It's
that's
fast
solid.
enough.
Yeah.
It's not like blazing fast, but it's fast.
Yeah.
I I think the thing with him is I think he's going to wow a lot of people at the Senior Bowl. I think people don't realize how balanced he is and how strong he is for his frame. That's the two things that I think are going to carry him through that people aren't realizing.
He's a dual threat guy. He can do both. You've seen him. He's not just like an outside runner.
No.
I'm trying to think of like a comp to him.
It's hard because like I think somebody was like Darren Sproles, but it's not.
No, he's bigger than Sproles.
Yeah, it's an odd. I don't know. It's hard to. I can't really compare him to anybody.
This is kind of a. Not to say he's like on this skill level, but size wise, it's like a Barry Sanders build. Smaller, shifty.
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't play like Barry Sanders.
No, but I'm strictly talking size.
Right.
I'm trying to think of people in that mold. Like under, he's not as solid as Alvin is. He's not as big as Alvin is, I don't think.
No.
So it's weird. It is a weird thing. But I don't think maybe.
That's the first name that came to mind. Tiki Barber. I'm just picking out random smaller backs that were like solid.
Maurice Jones-Drew was too much of like a bowling ball.
He's solid.
It's just I'm hoping sometimes it's like these teams get. I said maybe the combine would help him, but like you're saying, maybe his numbers aren't blow people out the water. And sometimes it feels like teams overreact to that. Like sometimes it's easier to evaluate a player than they make it to be.
I agree.
You just watch the tape.
Yeah.
Like when Deshaun Watson
dominate?
When Deshaun Watson was coming out of college,
it's obvious.
Everybody was like, "This guy's going to be good."
Yeah.
But for some reason, like I don't even remember what it was about him that people were like, "Yeah, he's not going to be good."
I don't want to get into what I think it was.
Yeah, yeah. Well, but like strictly, just sometimes you just watch somebody play and you're like, "Yeah, this guy can play." Like it doesn't make sense why people.
If you look back, so he's had some injuries. That's probably why he's not as high on people's radar because he just hasn't been able to showcase his skills enough. But if you look back at last year, before he got hurt, I mean, he plays Oklahoma, and he puts up over 200 yards against Oklahoma last year in the first game of the year, almost beats the number 2 team in the nation. This year, against all of the best teams, he put up over 200 yards.
That's what's most impressive. Against the best team they played this year, he just put up 200 yards and 4 touchdowns.
And if you go even deeper than that, not even just the best team he played this year, the best teams he played this year. If you look at the last 4 games, it's 4 of your toughest opponents. I mean, they had a rough stretch. They had to beat some of the best teams in their conference.
Right. Let's give Michael Pratt, all those other guys credit, give the defense credit. This team has only done what it did because of Tyjae Spears.
Sure. Well, and you know what's really interesting though? People are worried about him leaving, but like they're loaded. They have so many good running backs on this team. Like I think you're going to be surprised next year with the guys that come through. You're going to be like, "Holy shit, like these guys are good too."
Well, and like we've talked about in the past, like you have this kind of success, it's only going to attract people. I was so the podcast I listen to for Miami recruiting, I follow the guys on Twitter that do it, and they're like recruiting experts, but they do Miami. And when Tulane won, one of them tweeted out that Tulane was like in the running for 2 of the top running backs in the country, and that the last second they switched to go somewhere else.
RBU.
But it was like 2 of the best running backs in the country, and or maybe it was the state. I don't remember, but it was like 2 top running backs. Like people are starting to look at Tulane as a real program. And then like these transfer portal guys, like maybe if Tyjae gets drafted, which we should,
he will.
If Deuce gets on the squad, like all these guys, if they get on a team, then the transfer portal guys might be like, you know what, I can go there, get enough exposure, because that's all most of the transfer portal guys are trying to get.
Right.
They're like, we can go here, probably dominate because they're they're a little better.
You're also seeing, I think that that's kind of a good transition too, right? Like there's so much momentum with this Tulane program right now. They've never been able to really take advantage of it in the past. They've got a little momentum in the past, and they were never able to really take advantage of it to the effect you would think they would. I mean, they have the new stadium-ish. Yeah. They have a lot of dollars coming in now, though, is what I'm getting at, both NIL and towards just the program in general. There's rumors that they're going to upgrade some of the facilities. I think things like that are going to go a long way, too, with getting some of these guys in here and keeping guys.
Yeah. I think what my hope for next year is I hope they can schedule a couple more good out-of-conference games because like we thought like the conference is gonna get weaker.
Yeah.
As far as maybe not that's kind of a weird word I guess because like we said SMU is gonna get better because of the the people they brought in. Who else? There was 2 teams. There was SMU and somebody brought in a lot of good competition. So you'll have good teams, but it's not going to be as deep. So it's going to be like Tulane and maybe 2 other teams.
Yeah.
So that's going to that kind of sucks for their in-conference schedule. So you hope they can get another K-State or like 2 of those games on there would be nice.
They've been. I mean, I think you already know. I can't. I'd have to look up next year like who they have. They'd have the bigger games already scheduled. Like some of those big out of conference games, they already have them set up. I'd have to look that up. I haven't even looked. I know we had a contract with Oklahoma, which I think is expired now. We had one with Ohio State, but I think they might be done now. I can't remember.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, either way, listen, they've got momentum. I think hopefully you come in next year close to the top 25. I don't think they will. They're not going to leave them in the top 25. I don't think. But we'll see. It's an exciting time. You keep Willie Fritz. Your team's deep. You get Michael Pratt back. You get another lineman coming over from was LSU, I think it was.
I didn't see it.
Fuck, I can't remember. I might just be spitballing here. But yeah, I mean, it's exciting. So I just figured we should talk about that for a second. That's all.
We talked about Tyjae. What about Deuce?
Yeah, you know how I feel about him from talent.
Well, the reason I'm asking is because we just said sometimes you watch a game and it feels easy to just watch the tape. And like that's the best thing they can do is put something on tape.
Yeah.
And he's another one that we both agree is better.
I was gonna say, you know how I feel about him from a talent perspective. I think he's got all the talent in the world, especially when it comes to jump balls and high pointing the ball, things like that. He's got good hands. Hopefully, there's a scout that sees that and they take a chance on him. I say take a chance on him. I don't think it's taking a chance, but I think he also runs the risk of being a very late round pick, or maybe even being a undrafted free agent, just because he hasn't had the notoriety.
Yeah, but we've seen it with the Saints all the time. Sometimes that's good. You can choose your spot where you're going to go be good. I think I'm willing to bet this could be possibly like the highest number of Tulane players drafted. I don't know what that is. Maybe there's teams from the past, but on the defensive side, you got you'd imagine Nick Anderson gets drafted.
I think
they might all be late round guys.
Actual like drafted and then also draft position wise, maybe. Obviously you're not going to see like the Matt Forte or like the Patrick Ramsey or JP Lawson from years past, but the amount, the quantity with the level that they get drafted at, I think maybe it might be one of the better draft classes. Yeah. It's hard. It depends how you want to rate it, right? But yeah, I agree. I mean, there's been a lot of guys that have come out over the last decade, though, that are in the NFL right now. I mean, that you typically haven't seen. Like, normally it would be like 2 guys in the league from Tulane. But over the last 10 years, you got there's probably like 20 guys in the league right now.
Darnell Mooney is one of the better receivers. But he was another one. We talk about Deuce Watts. Like, he didn't get a lot of love coming out. Like, he was kind of highly rated, but he was one that you could watch and be like, yeah, this guy's going to be good. Like, he's just a good receiver. Yeah. And I thought he was underdrafted at the time. But, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good for Tulane, man.
We'll see. We can circle back to this after the draft and maybe say, oh, this many Tulane players got drafted, which would be cool.